the 44th meeting of the Fair Employment and Housing Council. The meeting is being called to order. I'm going to ask my colleague, Kara Broadfuhr, Senior Fair Employment and Housing Council, to conduct the roll call.
Good morning. Chair Sandoval.
Present.
Councilmember Brodsky.
Present.
Councilmember Hong.
Present.
Councilmember Iglesias.
Present.
Councilmember Alude.
Present.
Councilmember Scher.
Present.
Councilmember Walensky.
Present.
Director Kish.
Present.
Good morning, everyone. I want to inform you that the meeting is being webcast live via Zoom video conference, and the video of this meeting will also be available afterwards on the DFEH website and DFEH YouTube channel. We also have closed captioning available for participants who can find, which you can find at the bottom of the Zoom bar features. If you're having difficulty accessing the closed captioning, you can chat with the administrator to resolve the issue. Members of the public who are participating remotely in today's proceeding, you may have noticed that you are currently muted and your video is disabled at this time. However, please be advised that as in all other in-person meetings, there will be opportunities for public comment and participation throughout the meetings as we address each of our agenda items. We have a number of ways for you to participate and provide input and comments. That includes you can send an email to the council at FEHC, OUNCIL, that's FEH Council, at dfeh.ca.gov. We will be checking this email account throughout the meeting, and your comments will be read aloud and considered by council members. Alternatively, you can use the Zoom chat feature to send a message directly to the meeting administrator, who can read your comment out loud. Or if you would like to speak directly rather than your written text, please click raise hand in the Zoom feature or press *9 if you called in. If you would like to rename yourself in the Zoom list of participants, you can find yourself on the list and click rename in the list of options next to your name. I would also like to thank the staff of the Fair Employment Department of Fair Employment and Housing, Adam Romero, DFEH's Deputy Director of Executive Programs, as well as Kara Broadfuhr, Senior Fair Employment and Housing Council, and of course, Kevin Kish, who's already been introduced, for their assistance with facilitating this meeting. With regard to the agenda, copies of the agenda and meeting materials can be accessed at the council's page of the DFEH website, which is the same page where the Zoom video conferencing can be found. Highlights of today's meetings will include consideration of additional modifications to the housing regulations, also a report from the director, Kevin Kish, and updates from the council's subcommittees. First order of business today is to review and approval of the minutes from the last council meeting. And I would like to see if there are any council members who have comments or edits regarding the minutes. Seeing none, do we have any public comments?
There are no public comments.
Okay, can we get a motion to adopt?
I move.
Second? Can we have a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Chair Sandoval.
Aye.
Councilmember Brodsky.
Aye.
Councilmember Hong.
Aye.
Councilmember Iglesias.
Aye.
Councilmember Alude.
Aye.
Councilmember Scher.
Aye.
Councilmember Walensky.
Aye.
Great, thank you. We'll next move on to our next order of business, which is council member reports. Does any council member have a report that they would like to provide at this time? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the next agenda item, which is a report from Kevin Kish, the director of DFEH.
Thank you. And I'm going to turn it over to Adam Romero to give the department's report for this meeting.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm pleased to share that last month, DFEH published a guide for housing providers regarding their obligations to correct and end harassment on their properties by third parties, such as harassment by one tenant of another tenant, or harassment of one resident by another resident. This document is available on our website in various places, and in a moment I'll chat it into the chat function so everyone can have the link. The guide provides useful guidance on the council's regulation under Title II California Code of Regulations, Section 12010, which, as you know, imposes liability on housing providers for failing to take prompt action as determined on a case-by-case basis to correct and end a discriminatory housing practice by that person's employee or agent, or by a third party, where the person knew or should have known of the discriminatory conduct. The guide provides an overview of the law of harassment, answers numerous frequently asked questions, and provides tips for housing providers who must investigate harassment on their properties. And we're hopeful that this will be a useful resource for all. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. At this time, we'll move forward with our colleagues Darius Schur and Tim Iglesias regarding housing regulations.
One quick thing as an announcement, should we also announce again the bystander training?
Yeah, I think I was going to do that
Okay.
for my fellow council member Brodsky during the hate violence subcommittee, but we definitely want to announce that we're having a bystander training on July 20th at 11 a.m. that is free and open to the public. So we hope as many people can participate at that time as well.
And
Thank
we can do it again when we get to our subcommittee report.
Great.
Yes.
Thanks. Sorry for jumping the gun.
Thank you, Councilmember Iglesias. It's important convening, so I appreciate the energy.
I was just being a very active bystander.
That's good. Good. So next up, we'll have Councilmember Tim Iglesias and Councilmember Darius Schur present as they are members of the Housing Regulations Committee, Subcommittee.
Want to go ahead, Tim?
Sure. So we're presenting an unmodified text from the last meeting and having considered the comments. And so now in this meeting, we're going to be asking the council to move the regulations forward to be, eventually given to OAL for review and all that.
Councilmember Schur, do you have anything to add?
No.
Okay. Any council member comments?
When I was reading through it again, I just found a few typos and things. Do you want me to raise them? They're not substantive. They're just really picky little things, but I don't know if you want me to do that.
I think what we can do with any non-substantive kind of typographical change is if you just want to send them to us, then we can make any edit changes that we need to before we submit.
And I don't know if I think this falls into that category, but like calling something a section versus a subsection and inconsistencies along those lines, would you say those can be dealt with that way?
I would say those are non-substantive changes.
Oh, they're definitely non-substantive.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Any additional comments from council members? Okay. Any public comment, Kara?
We have one public comment, and just to remind folks, if you are on the webinar and would like to make a comment, please raise your hand and I will call on you and allow you to speak. So the first public comment is Janet Powers. I'm going to allow you to talk now.
Hi.
Good morning.
Right.
Go ahead, Ms. Powers.
Let me unmute myself here. Okay, great. Thank you all very much. I really appreciate the opportunity to address the council today. Many of you know me. I've come and spoken regularly with regard to community associations and how the proposed DFEH regulations will impact associations. First, I want to congratulate the council, particularly council members Scher and Iglesias, for all the hard work that you've put into these regulations. It really shows the amount of care and concern that you have. My only reason for chatting today, other than to tell you good job, is to discuss what I think is a little bit of confusion and perhaps a misstatement of a law with regard to sections 12179 and 12181 D and E. These are the sections that talk about what has to happen when a person with a disability makes a modification to either the interior of their residence or to the common area. And since the common area is under the control of associations, we really don't have an issue here with the making of those modifications. As long as the person applies and, for example, a ramp or a parking space or some other type of exterior modification, we see these requests all the time and they're routinely granted by associations. We just want to make sure that, of course, they're properly engineered so no one gets hurt by putting in an improperly constructed wheelchair ramp, or we've seen accidents with chair lifts that are installed on stairways going up to second-story units. They did them cheaply or improperly, and the person with the disability actually fell off of the chair lift and was injured. So other than the safety concerns, which I think are really not the problem here, the biggest concern I have with the way that the regulations are currently written is that there is the express indication that no restoration of either the owner's separate interest or the public common areas is required in common interest developments. And specifically, section 12181E says that the obligation to restore the premises at the end of the residency is limited to the interior of tenancies. This is just not an accurate statement of a law. And here's my thinking on that. And then I'm happy to explore this with the council because I'm sure there was great thought put into this. So bottom line is that 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10 associations are not subject to the Americans with Disabilities Act. We're of course governed by FEHA, but they're not places of public accommodation. And so there is no obligation at the end of the tenancy to allow, or someone sells their unit or their home, there is no obligation as there would be under the ADA for the association to allow the modification to remain. Now, in most cases, frankly, the association is going to allow the modifications to remain, especially if it's something like a ramp that many people could use or a parking space that has been converted to an accessible space, or some other type of modification that would not necessarily just be unique to that particular individual. But in the event that there is a desire or need for the restoration, it should be noted someplace that this is just not a correct statement of the law. The association is not obligated to leave the modification in place as it would be under the ADA. Under the Fair Housing Act, the association can and often does require the removal of the modification. And that is paid for at the expense of the owner of the separate interest. So I wanted to explore with the council kind of what the reasoning here is. It's clear you've tried to treat associations differently in these sections, which I absolutely appreciate because this is very different than a situation involving an apartment complex. And again, I think we're talking about a very small percentage of situations where the association would likely be requiring removal. But in some situations, and I think you might even have it as an example in one of your regulations here, wheelchair ramps, for example, are put in, and that's fine. But if there only used to access a given unit or residence, and they're of no use to anyone else, and whoever purchases the unit after the person with the disability is no longer there, if they're not needed or wanted, and in many instances they actually block a common area walkway, or they block a parking area. The desire to have those removed is not only with just the association, but the residents in the surrounding units, and often even the person who might be buying that unit doesn't want or need a wheelchair ramp. So I think this is an issue that is going to cause some confusion going forward. So that's my main purpose in speaking today, is just to raise this issue. I know we're not looking for substantive changes at this point in the process, and you do want to get on. I just want to flag this as a concern, because although it may not come up often, when it does, I see this being, in essence, a mandate for the association to have to allow these kinds of modifications to remain. So thank you very much for the opportunity to speak today. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you, Ms. Powers. Any additional public comment?
There are no hands raised, and there's nothing in the chat, and we have received no emails to the council's email, so no additional public comment.
Okay. Thank you. Given that there is no additional public comment, I will solicit a motion to adopt the unmodified text and authorize the department to submit it to the Office of Administrative Law for approval, and also authorize the department to make any non-substantive or non-substantial changes to the regulations required by OAL in order to approve the regulations. Do I have a motion?
I so move.
A second?
Second.
Chair Brockway, can you conduct roll call, please?
Sure. Chair Sandoval.
Aye.
Councilmember Brodsky.
Aye.
Councilmember Hong.
Aye.
Councilmember Iglesias.
Aye.
Councilmember Alude.
Aye.
Councilmember Scher.
Aye.
Councilmember Walensky.
Aye.
Thank you. Next, we'll have an update from the Reasonable Accommodation for Associational Disability Subcommittee. Councilmembers Brodsky and Councilmember Alude.
I don't know, Adetunji, do you want to give the update?
You're welcome to, you know.
Okay, just the only thing we have to say is that the draft is still under, the comments that we received are still under review, and we hope to get back to you next time.
Thank you, council members. Do we have any public comment, Sarah?
No public comment. I stand corrected. I'm going to unmute Dr. Cliff Cheng. Mr. Cheng, you're all set to speak.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, Dr. Cheng.
Okay. The chat has been muted, so we can't make comments through chat. You're not getting any comments through chat because it's been muted. End of comment.
Thank you, Dr. Cheng. We'll address that issue. Also, if any council members have any comments with regard to the subcommittee, I failed to ask. Any comments from council members? Okay. Any additional public comment, Kara?
I don't see any additional public comment, and we received no emails to the department's email as well.
Thank you, Kara. Next item on the agenda is update from the Criminal History and Employment Regulations Subcommittee. Councilmember Julie Walensky and I sit both on that subcommittee. Councilmember Walensky, would you like to provide an update?
Sure. Thank you, Chair Sandoval. So as we reported last time, the subcommittee plans to propose an amendment to the regulations on the use of criminal history and employment decisions to ensure that employers comply with the Fair Chance Act when determining eligibility for the federal work opportunity tax credit. And the subcommittee is also exploring other potential amendments to further effectuate the Fair Chance Act following the council's hearing last November. Chair Sandoval, do you have anything to add?
Nothing to add. Thank you, council member. Any comments from other council members? Okay. Any public comments?
No public comment.
Okay, we'll move on to the next update from our subcommittee dealing with Government Code Section 11135. We have Councilmember Dale Brodsky and Councilmember Dara Shore.
We are still working on initial statement of reasons, preliminary to submission for review, and we're hoping to have that completed soon.
Thank you, Councilmember. Any comments or feedback from other council members? Okay, see none. Let's move on to see if there's any public comment.
No public comment.
All right, we'll move forward to the next agenda item, and that is a subcommittee regarding hate violence. We have council members Dale Brodsky and I sit also on that subcommittee.
Chair
Brodsky?
Sandoval, Mr. Guillermo Vallejo did just raise their hand just now.
Okay,
So
with
I'm
regard
gonna
to
go with regards to the previous agenda item.
okay, go ahead.
So I'm gonna go ahead and on Mr. Vallejo, I'm gonna go ahead and allow you to talk.
Mr. Vallejo, it looks like you're on mute. Go ahead.
Oh no, just good morning. First of all, just to let you guys know, well, I've been trying to chat, but it's still for some reason I can't. So if you could help me in there, that way I'll be able, like when you say something, I'll be able to chat with you guys.
Do you have a comment to make now?
No,
Mr.
no,
Vallejo?
no, no. I'm listening to the conversation, but when
Okay.
the time's right, I would like to ask questions.
Okay, Mr. Vallejo, just bear in mind that at the end of the agenda items, you'll have another opportunity with regard to public comment. So when you like to do so, you'll be able to have that opportunity. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I just want to say, we have been looking at the chat and we do not see on our end that it's muted in any way. So I honestly don't know what's going on with it if folks can't access it. But perhaps if Kara Brofier can provide the email address again, if folks are still having a hard time accessing the chat, they can send comments via email.
Sure. So you can send comments via email at fehcouncil@dfeh.ca.gov. And you could also, if you're participating, raise your hand and give a comment orally as well. And I'm looking frantically on my end with regards to the Zoom to see if I can figure out what's going on. So my apologies.
Thank you, Director Kish. Thank you, Kara. Okay. Any additional public comment for that item before we move on to the next one?
Miss Powers has raised her hand. Miss Powers, would you like to speak?
Ms. Powers?
Yes, hi. I'm not sure if you can hear me.
Yes,
I'm just
we do.
weighing in that I think what we're all experiencing on the chat is that it continues to say at the bottom of the chat box that it's disabled. So we can't, it's not a matter of being able to not send anything. It's still saying at the bottom, in case that will help you figure out the problem. It just says at the bottom, chat disabled.
Thank you, Miss Powers.
Okay, that's it. Thank you.
I appreciate that.
Okay, so please remember you can still provide public comment by raising your hand as mentioned, and also by sending emails to the email address that Kara just provided. We're going to move on to the next agenda item. We have an update with regard to the subcommittee regarding hate violence. Councilmember Brodsky sits on that subcommittee, as I do. Why don't you, Ms. Brodsky or Councilmember Brodsky, provide an update if you like?
Well, as we said before, we have scheduled a training session for how to be a bystander, how to function as an informed, active bystander if and when you see something happening, hate violence of any sort happening. And Councilmember Sandoval and I attended training sessions put on by Hollaback, which is the organization that's going to be doing the one that we are, the council has scheduled to be a public training session for July 20th at, remind me, is it 10 a.m.?
It's 11 a.m.
11 a.m. 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. So it's an hour long, and we highly recommend it. The tips that they give, kind of what to look for, how to respond if you see acts of hate violence occurring, are very, very helpful. And so we really encourage people to come. There's a flyer on DFEH's website. Do we have it? Can we put the link in? Or the link is already here in the chat, I think, for it. And it's just, you know, I don't, is there pre-registration required? I'm not sure.
I don't believe it's required, but I think it's encouraged. But what I want to say is that, again, this is a free training in response to the increase of hate violence and incidents against the Asian American Pacific Islander community, as well as other communities that are being targeted by this hate violence, anti-Semitism, anti-LGBTQ community, anti-Latino, et cetera. And what it is a real useful tool for everybody in different circumstances to intervene in a very safe way and to address any concerns you see in your communities. And so, as Councilmember Brodsky mentioned, we both attended this bystander training that provides you with in-depth information about challenges and other types of issues we may encounter when we see someone being targeted. But it also provides you with very real tools, including a delay or delegation, all of which you'll learn. And again, I highly encourage everyone to participate if you are not only in the space of civil rights, but also every single individual would find this beneficial to intervene. Again, the idea is to eliminate, reduce harassment-based incidents throughout the state of California.
And feel free to forward the flyer to anyone, any groups that you're part of, that you know, they don't have to be just anyone, because it's very useful information for everyone.
Thank you, Councilmember.
I believe we have addressed the chat issue.
Thank you, Adam. Do we have any comments from other council members?
Just thank you very much for organizing this. I look forward to it.
Council member. Any additional comments?
No public comments at this time, nothing to the email. No additional comments.
Okay. We look forward to seeing everyone on July 20th at 11 a.m. Next up on the agenda item is an update from our Algorithms and Bias Hearing Subcommittee. That includes Councilmember Tim Iglesias and Councilmember Helen Hong.
Councilmember Hong, you want to do it?
Sure, with any other additions from you. So the subcommittee has been meeting along with staff, gathering input not only from the panelists from our hearing, but from the council member themselves in terms of areas in which the subcommittee and the entire council may move forward in, or what kind of actions we want to take. And so after several meetings, what we've decided on is really just kind of creating a broader kind of sheet focusing on housing and employment where we have existing California regulations, particularly under areas that also incorporate the EOC and other federal regulations, and then seeing where there might be gaps for opportunities to hone in where the council should intervene or clarify. And so with that, staff and the subcommittee are continuing to refine that. So we hope to give that back to the full council in a couple of, realistically, several weeks, if not a few months, because a lot of that is right. It's all over the place, and we really need to find out, where it's not necessarily specified because the regulations are so dated. Is that pretty accurate, Councilmember Iglesias?
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, council members. Do we have any discussion by other council members on this item?
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, any public comment?
No public comment at this time.
We're moving on to the next agenda item, and that's a discussion regarding additional subcommittee assignments. Do we have any discussion by council on this topic?
I don't have anything on that, and I'm not sure if this is the right time to bring it up, but I'm curious, Director Kish, if there has been thinking or any decisions made about whether or not the council will continue to meet remotely or will be meeting in person or whatever going forward. So again, sorry for being off agenda if that's off agenda.
Thanks, council member. I think it's within the realm.
I think we're still in a little bit of transition around what the meetings are going to look like going forward. I know that we hope to be able to have hybrid meetings where there could be an in-person location, but partly this will depend on the extent to which the laws are modified by the legislature. And I know that a Little Hoover Commission report just came out this week urging the state to consider continuing with some form of remote meetings going forward. But of course, our ability to do this right now is under an executive order that could be revoked or expire. So we'll be watching that closely, and we'll certainly be updating the council members and the public on any developments on that front, and we'll follow the law wherever it goes. As of right now, we can anticipate remote meetings for the immediate future.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Director Kish. Any additional comments from any other council members? Okay. Any public comment?
No public comment at this time.
Thank you, Kara. At this time, we'll see if there's any further public comment from any member of the public.
No public comment at this time.
Okay. If there's nothing to add, I'd like to adjourn this meeting. And I wish everybody a good afternoon and a good remainder of the week.
Thanks very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.